we met with Jim Moseley last night to end our evening, and that was a lot of fun. I think
Great guy.
We were all tired, we were all yawning, and by the time we met him, we all woke up and were blabbering on passionately about all sorts of things. But he gave this great metaphor about that his job as an executive presbyter, and he's got quite the job there because he's a target for a lot of criticism. But he said his job, and what he sees the presbytery doing, is enriching the soil of a garden. So he has this garden metaphor, and he says his goal isn't to root out necessarily the weeds or the wheat. It's the sense of, well, let's just create great soil where anything can grow. So that somebody like Holly comes and introduces the Big A Church, somebody like Edwin comes and, we'll see what sort of happens, and others get attracted to this place because it has great soil. And he sort of uses the biblical metaphor, and let God be the judge of who are the weeds and who are the wheat. And
the growth is organic, and what naturally arises is what should be there, as opposed to
artificially
what we, with all our strategies and everything else, because in the institutional church and the corporate model of church planning, is so overthought. The reality is it's as much art as science. The conversation with Jim was, just fantastic. And we talked about lots of challenges for specifically a Protestant church in North America. We talked a little bit about the community church of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, and how, as I described it, he was had some enthusiasm in talking about how millennial we are, and which isn't anything that I consciously ever thought about, but was just steady responding, to
sort of intuited
what was sort of common sense. One point I wanted to make before we wrap things up, Edwin, is to talk about, I think, an issue that I sensed Holly may have had, and I know I struggled with it and made mistakes with it, and my sense is it could be a cause of concern for you, and that's this, that you're designing something brand new. You're going to start a new worshiping community or a new church, and there's so much that goes along with that, from legal sorts of things to trying to understand demographics, to choosing a name, to doing marketing, understanding your competition, et cetera, and it's pretty fun and interesting to sit in an office or Starbucks somewhere on your computer and sort of have that become your job. And it's comfortable, and it's easy, and it's fun, and it's dynamic, and no one's pushing you. And so that can be the thing that you think you're about. When push comes to shove, though, that's not what you're about. Those things matter, but there needs to be a sense that ultimately it's people and connecting with them that is your job. And it's just really easy to go to that safe place of sitting in the office and designing it, and not going out into the community when you're going to be rejected, or people are going to think you're crazy, or no one wants to talk to you, or who knows what else. So it's like if you're going to learn to swim, there's time to sit on the water's edge and think about, what's a swimming stroke, and what
breathing
one do I want to do, and breathing techniques, and do I want to go in a lake or a pond or a swimming hole or a pool or whatever. You can spend all day talking about those kinds of things, but when it's all said and done, you've got to jump in, and you've got to get wet, and you've got to figure it out. And early on, I think I spent way too much time thinking it through, and not nearly as much time going out and doing the hard stuff of being with people and seeing what their needs were. and it's a temptation I hope you won't fall into.
Well, I can speak to that. I mean, it's tempting, I've got to say. As somebody who, I think our Presbyterian faith tradition, but I think all people of faith are called to this, to reflect critically, critically on their faith. And I think it's hard because, you go to seminary and you get to see these different models of churches, and when you do your field education at churches and you do a residency or you do an internship, you're seeing all these churches, you read about churches, and you want to design the perfect church. Mm-hmm. I mean, there really is that temptation. If you happen to also be a planner, I'm not a short-term planner at all. I have no idea what's going on tomorrow, but I know what's going on 5 years from now. I'm a long-term planner. I like to think about things a long time from here. And there's a temptation of like, well, do I really want to be labeled as this kind of church and this kind of pastor? Holly actually referenced that yesterday. She's a musician. She wanted to have a church with a lot of cool music stuff. That's true for me. She's a creative type. I want creative people. We want multi-generational people. We don't want a church that just targets this one group, and yet at the same time, realistically, you hit the ground and you do have to focus on, all right, what's going to work, what's going to stick, who are the people that are going to come together, and I guess trust the Spirit that the people you're going to need are going to show up, and the resources you need are going to be there. Right. And you just have to, go out and meet the people and be there. So, I guess the final thought I have, and then you can just give us a sense of what's planned for today. Yeah, is that I believe that as you interact with people, they'll be interested in what you want to do, but what will stick with them and what will be far more powerful is if you're able to articulate why you want to do it. So it's not just, hey, I'm Edwin, and I want to start a new worshiping community, or I want to start a new church. Well, they'll think that's interesting. But if you can articulate in a succinct way why you want to do that, that's what will speak not just to their head but also to their heart. So that's good. Something to, I think, remember. So what's cooking for today? So actually, if you want to turn around, because we just passed the main street, we're entering Middletown. Middletown is a suburb of Wilmington. It's one of the fastest growing suburbs of Wilmington. They basically call it MOT. So that's Middletown, Odessa, and Townsend, I believe, is the last one. They're just populations that are exploding with growth. If you look at the year 2000, this town had about 6,000 people. As of the 2010 census, they had close to 30,000. This year alone, they were going to build, I think, 4,000 to 5,000 homes. The infrastructure of the town, the schools, all those kinds of things can't even keep up with the population. They have a high-quality educational program. They have cheap real estate, cheap home prices. So you got a lot of young people, young families moving in that work in Philadelphia or Wilmington or New York or D.C. and Baltimore because it's centrally located. And they're out here. So this, you're about to see it. It's sort of this 1950s quaint downtown with all this sprawling development happening over it. So we're going to see if there's any opportunities there. There's some interest from the Presbytery to do something there, and see what we can do to attract young families. So we're going to walk around and meet with some people and get a sense of what those opportunities might be, and if I might be a person called to do it. So sounds good. All right. Thanks. Until next time.